Hi, and welcome back to FLINT Talks. In this episode, we're bringing you something a little bit different. The FLINT team recently hosted a webinar all about negotiation skills. Whether you're asking for a raise, reshaping your role, or just figuring out how to communicate your value, negotiation shows up more often than you think. Led by Zibby and Carl, the session was packed with practical advice, real talk, and a few laughs along the way. If you missed the live version, don't worry, because you're about to hear it all right here. Let's dive in.
Kia ora, everyone. Hope you're all well. Still waiting on my co-host, but I think we'll kick things off with a few introductions. But yeah, first of all, thank you all so much for attending this webinar. It's one that I've done a few times for the FLINT community, and I guess a skill that I think we can all use some brushing up on. It's super important, not just, I guess, from a job perspective, but just a really solid personal skill to have as well. So for those that don't know me, I will do a bit of an introduction, and then I'm very honoured to be joined by Cal as well. He's just running a tiny bit late, who is a new member from our FLINT Wellington crew. So to kick things off, I guess a wee bit of an intro on my end for those that don't know me. I'm Zibby, so I have been involved with FLINT now for, gosh, I think it's probably about 6 years. As you can tell, I am not from Aotearoa. I come from Scotland, a town called Paisley, but I've lived in New Zealand now for the past 8 years. And I've worked in the recruitment space where negotiation is something that you have to use on the daily. And I think it is definitely a skill that I've, I guess, evolved throughout my time working. I have been involved in FLINT in a few different roles, from being an attendee at our events, just like you are today, to then joining the lead team, to then working on the sort of national lead role that I'm in now, where I support all of our wonderful groups across the country. In my spare time, as you can see on this little slide, I've got two beautiful nieces. I have recently done my first triathlon, and I did 2 half marathons this year. And I'm on the board for another charity called Seeds to Feed. I've got a few other snaps, one with Eden, who is our FLINT Wellington chair, with Jonathan Waker, when we did an awesome event with him last year. And then I've got a picture of me winning Leader of the Year in 2023 with my former general manager, Marvin. And I can see what I've got Cal on the line now. So thank you, Cal, for joining.
Hello.
Super excited to do this presentation to you all today, and hopefully, shed some insight into negotiation and how you can kind of brush up on those skills. So over to Cal for some introductions.
Thank you very much, Zibby. Hello, everybody. Good day. Hope you guys are doing well. Sorry, I'm a little late. So my name is Cal. So I've been in New Zealand for about a year now. I just recently moved to New Zealand, and I came across FLINT in one of the events that happened last year. So I met Zibby and Eden there, and it was such a wonderful event. And I kind of got glued in and wanted to be a part of it and do a lot of more activities and stuff. And I'm glad that I joined the team, and so I'm currently working for the Ministry of Justice as a learning design lead. I just recently started. Prior to this, I was working in India for Accenture as the general manager. So taking care of the entire contact center across multiple geographies, you would say India, China, Australia, and then the US and Canada. So that's been from my work standpoint, and so I moved to New Zealand with my family, my wife, who's doing her master's in global business at Vic Uni, and my almost 2-year-old son, and enjoying our stay here. Beautiful country, beautiful people. Love being here and meeting new people and engaging with all of you guys. So that's a little bit about me. Thank
Nice,
you.
Cal. And yeah, we're so lucky to have you on board already, just making such an impact to the team. So yeah, super
Thank you.
excited to do this presentation with you today. So yeah, I guess a bit of an overview. I think I've now done this. This might be my third or my fourth time doing this topic, of the coattails of an amazing man called Ian Scott, who used to be a general manager at Randstad, and he's now got his own consulting organisation called the Scott Collective. And he was the first person to present on negotiation skills, and then he handed the baton on to me. So yeah, so I think it's something that is just so important. So many professionals actually hesitate about negotiation. It can be quite a daunting subject, even when the data does show that it does pay off if you can negotiate well. It does pay off. And what we kind of, I guess, want to do today is reframe negotiation. It's not scary. It's more about collaboration rather than confrontation. So yeah, so what we want to cover, a few different topics, and yeah, we wanted to give more practical tips this time, so some scenarios. So Cal has pulled together some pretty awesome scenarios that we're going to talk through as well. And then of course, after this, if you've got any questions, just fire them through to both of us. We'll be more than happy to answer anything that you've got. So yeah, just a brief agenda. We'll go through what is negotiation. We've got some key facts as well. I'm going to cover things from, I guess my job is recruitment. So, you know, some of that's the stuff like salary, some of those benefits that you can negotiate. And Cal's going to look at some of it from like a professional standpoint, aren't you, Cal? Yeah, when you can use those practical tips. We're going to look at how you can prepare for negotiation. And as I mentioned, go into some real life scenarios. So hopefully be able to, yeah, give you some practical tips on how to handle some certain situations. So a few quick facts that I just thought I'd throw out there that I thought were actually, I updated these from our previous ones. But yeah, just pretty like strong numbers that we're seeing. So 87% of professionals who negotiated a job offer got at least part of what they were asked for. So that's great. If you're not negotiating at all, then you're not going to get anything. So it just shows that you really should take part in that. 58% of young professionals accepted job offers without negotiating at all. So that's a large portion of people that aren't even negotiating. Women are less likely to negotiate starting salaries, contributing to the pay gap. And 70%, and this is a recent stat, and I definitely can empathise with it working in the job market daily, is that New Zealand professionals are saying that it's really hard to negotiate a pay rise now, more so than in previous years due to things like inflation and, of course, those employer cost cutting that's going on as well. So over to Cal, just to kind of talk around what actually is negotiation. Oh, I can't hear you, Cal. Sorry, I think
Sorry about that. I was on mute. Oh, there you go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, can hear you now.
All right, great. So see, so negotiation basically is about you know, having a conversation between two individuals, right? So getting into an agreement. It's more to do with finding the right balance with respect to what you want to achieve, because once you get into a conversation, you always need to remember that the other person also needs something from it, right? It's not a one-way street. It's always going to be a two-way street, wherein, you know, we need to really understand the other person's viewpoint. You know, what's going to happen, what is that they are looking at, why are they, you know, in talking in that direction and not just focusing on, no, this is what I want. So it's never that, right? So it's always, you know, coming to an agreement with the other person. It can be as simple as, you know, you want to buy something for your house, right? Or you're trying to get a new place for yourself, right? Just have to make sure that you get into a win-win situation. And you'll hear this a lot from both of us today, a win-win kind of a situation, because it's ensuring that you're respecting the other person, you know, trying to get an agreement from both the parties and ensuring that both go away with a smile. And
yeah, I like that, and I think you're so right when it comes down to negotiating being a win-win. I've definitely come into experience where a negotiation isn't a negotiation; it's more a demand. You know, I work candidates all the time, and my job as a senior manager at Randstad, where someone will say, I will not accept this if I don't get this, but actually it's reframing that conversation around what's in it for both parties. So
Correct.
yeah, I like that summary about a win-win. Everybody wants to walk away with a smile. So Cal, when is it you actually do have to negotiate?
I think when like you rightly pointed out, salary negotiation is like the main thing that we always focus on when it negotiations, right? So I want this, I want that, or I want a higher salary, because eventually all the other things that you're looking at boils down to the money that we get, right? The hard work that we're putting in. So salary negotiation is like the main thing, and then obviously there are other aspects to it. Once you get the negotiation done from a salary standpoint, you start working, right? And in your workplace, and this is what I've seen from my past experiences in Accenture, is that every single aspect of your work, you need to have that kind of an agreement. You don't call it negotiation per se every single time, but even getting into an agreement with someone is a negotiation, right? It can be on some timelines, some project deadlines, so certain things in the project that you think that can be done, but other person doesn't think can be done. So you come to an agreement, you both negotiate to kind of understand this is what we need to work on as a team. The other thing, after COVID, everybody wants to get into a remote environment, right? So everybody wants to work from home or work from a remote location. So understanding what is actually needed, and why is it needed when it comes to a remote, uh, work option. That also something that you'll have to kind of get into a win-win situation. You might not get all the 5 days. Maybe you get in maybe a day or two compared to how it was during COVID, right? Anything revolves around money.
Negotiation is
That's like the first thing that comes together, right? And outside of work also, when it comes to, say, you want to buy a car, right? And a used car, you don't want to pay about $6,000 and buy a car. You always want to get that lower. Hey, this might not be working. I might have to get these repairs done later on. So try to reduce the cost a little bit. All of that would come in, and obviously your development, when you want to ensure that you grow professionally, you'll have to develop your skills, right? So how do you get into that conversation with your leads, and that also makes a very, very impactful negotiation aspect. And obviously if you're sharing a room with someone, then you get in and
you might have to negotiate.
You clean that, or you cook for today, lunches on you or dinners on me.
And I think what you've shown there, isn't it, is it's not just one size fits all. Like, negotiation can take many different shapes and forms. I guess, like, why is it we're actually covering it? So before we kind of dive into the negotiation cycle, and as I said, we've sprinkled some different scenarios throughout this webinar today. But yeah, why is it important? So for me, I guess I've listed a few of these things on this slide here, but just leading on from what Cal said, is it can set you up for future success. So having a really good, strong negotiation skills are foundational. So whether you're asking for a pay rise, or you might have to navigate team dynamics, or influencing some strategic decisions, it's going to set the tone for your career trajectory. Excuse me, that's a hard word for me to say. So think of it as planting seeds for future opportunities. Also, like, in a personal basis, to be able to negotiate for yourself, it's going to set you up. It might be that you have to negotiate more flexible working arrangements. If you want to have to advocate for yourself with clarity and confidence, that's really empowering. So that's where good negotiation skills will come into play. It means you're going to start off on the right foot. I'm sure we've all potentially been at the stage where we've been given a job offer, and that's one of our scenarios that we'll go into. And maybe you've been a bit lowballed, you've not quite got what you wanted. If you can negotiate successfully, it's really going to help you start your career in a good stance. It builds confidence. I think negotiation can be really daunting. I find it quite daunting myself at times. But one thing I can say over the years, since I do it quite often in my role, is it builds confidence. Practice makes perfect, I think, in a lot of these scenarios. Confidence isn't just a feeling, it's actually a skill and you can build it. So everybody that's come along to this webinar today, it seems like you're out to, build your own skills professionally and personally as well. And yeah, I think it can show that it can allow you to demonstrate the value that you can add. It helps your brand, it helps your image if you can negotiate really successfully and coherently. And also it can help you set up, for your future leadership roles. You might have to be on the other end of a negotiation with someone around sort of what they're looking for. And it just will really help you with those skills in the future.
Yeah, I think just to add there, Zibi, I remember the first time that I got into a negotiation. It was not revolving around salary because I was very fresh. I think about 17 years ago. So I just picked up what they gave me, and then after that, I realized that it actually helped me build confidence. Right?
Yeah.
When the first time when I had that conversation with my lead, it was revolving around the kind of work that I was doing. I was not very confident in how to get into a win-win situation. It was more of, oh, okay, you're saying that, okay, all right, I think you know better, so all right, so I'd be okay with it. But later on, as in when you progress, I started progressing through my career, it became so important to build that confidence,
Yeah.
and that's the key, right? And for everybody here who definitely, I'm sure all of you guys are confident now, but I think it'll take you one step higher when it and you'll be in a much confident position to get in and have that discussion, right?
Yeah.
And also keep in mind there has to be a thin line between being very assertive and being very aggressive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Assertive is great. Aggression, not that great when it comes
It's not going to be win-win, I think, if that's what it goes like.
Yeah.
But what we're going to show now is, I guess some scenarios that we've put together. But one thing before we kind of delve into these scenarios on the page, I think it's really important to sort of mention a few things. So I'm going to talk to you about things that are kind of work-related, job-related, so that salary negotiation and remote work flexibility. But it's probably important to address the context that we're navigating at the moment. So right now, it's a tight job market. We are going through a lot of organisations, lots of financial pressures where it might be difficult to negotiate, where it might be difficult to offer everybody that goes into a negotiation exactly what they want. So that for you is important to think of that as a context, but also to think about what things can you add to your toolkit that will set you up for success when it comes into these sort of negotiations. So one thing I wanted to talk about was BATNA, which is your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So this is really your source of leverage. So thinking if you are, for example, negotiating a salary, if you're not going to get the offer that you want, which I know is very challenging at this time to get the exact salary that you're wanting, it's thinking about what are the alternatives, what other things could be put on the table for you. So the first scenario there is a young professional has received a job offer, but the salary is below industry standards. What are we wanting to do? The candidate's wanting to negotiate a higher salary or added benefits. And how are you going to do that? So there's a few key things, and we'll go into those stages. But I think in this particular scenario, it's understanding what their BATNA would be. Is it that if they don't get the salary, they would like to look at added training options? Is there paid training that they could be put through? If they don't get the salary, is it that they can negotiate to work from home more days, because that will save costs? But also, I think if you are, going into a negotiation like this, and it doesn't always go your way, it's always thinking about, well, let's diarise and let's put some time in for a future conversation, so that you're not going to have that chat and then it gets put by the wayside. It's actually having the confidence to say, well, hey, if I can't get that right now, what steps do I need to take to have this considered again? And can we actually do a follow-up on that in a few months' time? It's also being realistic and not asking for a pay rise every month, because we know that doesn't always operate like that.
Yeah.
Like working somewhere very that has spare money. But I think at the moment it's actually being realistic, and you'll often have pay reviews, you'll have performance reviews. It's having everything ready, so that when you go into that conversation, is that you're well equipped. And in that particular instance, when a young professional is getting a new job offer, it's actually doing your research as well. There's so many tools out there that you can utilize, such as salary benchmark guides, connecting in with people that are doing that role already. Know your worth, know what the industry will pay for that salary as well. So yeah, that's the one on salary negotiation. But I think in this landscape, the biggest takeaway is that there are other things that are on the table that aren't just salary. It can be the other benefits that are at offer. And also, if you aren't able to get what you want in that instance, is making sure that there's follow-up so that you can re-enter that conversation further down the track.
Yeah, and just to add, Zubi, I think I remember having a conversation with one of my friends here when I recently moved to New Zealand. So that person works in a different organization, and from a salary negotiation standpoint, you won't even believe that what that person negotiated, right? It was not a pay raise. It was nothing to do with flexible hours. It was for that person to get parking.
Yeah, and that's a
Just
big
parking.
cost. Yeah, big cost
Big
in
cost.
Wellington.
Big cost in Wellington, and I remember I was taken aback, like, parking, because now I'm understanding the landscape a little more better, that parking is not that easy and not that cheap. It is expensive, and
Yeah,
the person got parking, and great, nothing like it, right?
absolutely. And parking might be something, I think that's a good one, is like the organisation may have parks available that aren't allocated. So if you can't get the salary, think
Get
about
something else.
everything that could be on the table.
Yeah.
That's a good one to note. The next scenario here, I've got a question. We'll have some questions. So, and this is probably one that I'll be able to work from home training salary. Yeah, look, and it's not just tech professionals. I think there's so many different things that you can look at. Other than working from home, training salary, I liked what Cal mentioned there around parking. Is there wellbeing benefits that can be incorporated into your package? I work with some clients that offer a really amazing benefits package where, everything is presented to them in what's like a vending machine, and they can actually go in and pick what is going to be suitable to them. Can you negotiate higher contribution into like your Kiwi Saver? I've got that sort of option. Is it negotiating more flexibility when it comes to the hours that you're working? There's so many different things, and what I'll share when we share this presentation is a list of what some of those benefits could be. Randstad have got some really good research that shows what does flexibility look like for people, because it incorporates things that I wouldn't even think of, being allowed to head off to the gym at lunchtime so that you've got those that time dedicated for yourself. There's so many different benefits that you could look at when it comes to negotiating there. The next scenario that we've got would be that remote work flexibility. So this is more of a workplace negotiation. So you're already, I guess, in your job, and this particular person wants to work remotely 3 days a week. And they have said that, look, when I work from home or I work remotely, it actually increases my productivity. So what I like that this person has done is they've done that research. When you do this, I think it's really important to provide statistics and some productivity measures that show that you are able to work better remotely, and just clearly articulate, what that looks like for you and why it's important. Things here from a negotiation standpoint that you could look at is, if the manager wants them to be in the office, is ask for a trial period. Hey, can we actually trial this out for a few months? And what we can do is we can review, and if my productivity isn't where you need it to be, then obviously we will have to reevaluate. But you want something that's going to show that you still are here for team collaboration. You want to demonstrate that your performance will still be high. And yeah, I like the idea of actually trialing out something to demonstrate how that would work for you. So once again, it's that win-win. You're showing what the business you're going to do for the business. You're also explaining and articulating what it means to you. Perfect. So these are a couple of scenarios. As we say, we've got a few more to show you. But this one here is just a little infographic around what are the stages of negotiation and what should you actually be doing when you enter into these types of negotiations. So number one, preparation. What's the phrase? If you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. So you've got to do your research, right? Understand what's on the table. What I liked about in that sort of scenario one, the candidate, was prepared with market data. They had a clear value proposition. And then in scenario two, the employee was offering solutions saying, let's trial this. Let's provide some productivity measures to support what I'm actually requesting. So thinking about what is it that you want, what you're willing to compromise on, and if you don't quite get what you want, what's your fallback plan, right? Then you go into the opening stage. So that's the first exchange where, tone, rapport, framing is really going to matter. So you want to, if you're approaching a negotiation, is make sure that you're setting the scene. You're actually giving the person the heads up of what you want to discuss in that meeting. So I always think an agenda. I'm a big fan of a bit of an agenda before you go into that interaction. And it's not about just stating your position. You're wanting to create a setting that you're open to collaborating in. So something really respectful, confident, open dialogue will, set the scene for something that's constructive. I think a good tip in that is, lead with curiosity and clarity, not confrontation. So a bit like what you said earlier, Cal, there's quite a fine line, isn't there, between demanding something, which can lead to a not very nice interaction.
Yeah. Cool.
We'll then move into sort of that testing. So here you can explore each other's positions, ask questions, listen actively. This is where that empathy and emotional intelligence can really shine. And yeah, I think in scenario two there, the employee acknowledged their manager's concerns and, asking for feedback, doing that trial period, then let's review it and see what the feedback would be. Stage 4 is sort of moving. So this is where offers are made and adjusted, alternatives are explored. Always remember, you might not get exactly what you want in the first round. So negotiation can be that back and forth. So think in terms of options, not ultimatums. So I think that's a main thing is you're not going in there with a, hey, if I don't get this, I'm leaving. It's actually like, well, what else can we explore? That collaborative environment. Then you're going to go to the agreement. So once you've both found the common ground, moving towards that agreement. So it's going to reflect the shared interests and realistic outcomes. You want it to feel fair and sustainable. And then finally, the final two sections of that finalisation and formalisation. So confirm the details of your negotiation, whether it's a signed contract, if it's something to do with your employment, is it an arrangement, is it a verbal commitment, but you've got it backed up by follow-up. Clarity here is really going to prevent future misunderstandings. And I think also throughout, like after you've negotiated something, have little sense checks to see how things are going with that arrangement that you've negotiated. And then lastly, I think we can all benefit from evaluating and reviewing what we've done, because not everything's going to go your way and you might not perfect your negotiation the first time you go into it. So taking a step back and actually think, did I prepare well? Did I listen enough to what was going on? And then thinking, what would you actually do different the next time? I like to think of it as that sort of do well, do different mindset across the board.
And also make sure that like the first stage, which is preparation, you have enough information before you get into a negotiation, right? Because you don't want to get there and something else comes up and you have no clue what that is, right?
Yeah.
It was very difficult to get and have a conversation. And one other thing that I've learned in my 16 years is that data never lies, right? And if you have if you have the data with you, if you have the numbers, right, you can win battles, right? That was like it's a next level. So nobody can actually get in and start questioning too much because you have something that is very valuable. So look for the data, look for those numbers, and be prep on that.
And I think actually, like a scenario that I get quite often is, say I've helped a candidate find a new role, and we do a bit of a 6-month check-in with them, and they'll say, hey, look, like really happy, but the scope of my role's changed, and I'm actually doing more than what I thought I was going to have to do, and I feel that I should be, remunerated for this or rewarded for this. Absolutely, like, but have all the examples. What is it that you've done? What did your initial job description say? Where is it deviating now? So have as you say, the facts and the examples, the evidence backed up for when you go into that conversation. So I've got a few more examples and scenarios for you that, I guess, Cal, you've got lots of insight into working in quite fast-paced and pressurised environments, so that you're really well versed for taking the team
I
through
think
these sort of things.
this is one of the most common scenarios that we have encountered, right? Especially when it revolves around a project wherein I had to work a lot with the clients, understand what they want and how they want it. And we all know that when we're dealing with clients, it's always going to be very challenging to get what we want. It's always They always come and say, no, we have to get this done in a certain amount of time. Say we'll have to get this project done in, say, 3 months. But realistically, we know that 3 months is something that cannot be achieved. So that's where you have to kind of go back, assess the entire project, look at what is urgent for them right now, right? Look at what is the critical and the urgent components of the project. And when you get into that discussions with the client, focus on that rather than, and never go ahead and say no, it cannot be done. So the moment you hear the word no, it rings alarms and bells and it goes all crazy. So always make sure that it's don't start with no's. Always ensure that understand the urgency, understand what's the capacity that is there on ground, how much can be achieved in specific time, and lay out the problems, right? And always go with solutions, because problems are always going to be there. So have problem solving abilities to ensure that everything that you are talking about, you have a solution to it, and lay that solution out. And that's where you will get into a situation where you'll be trusted. They would know that, oh, okay, there are certain things that are happening, but I like the solution, let's try that out. Always can negotiate with respect to trial periods, like how we mentioned, even with the project timeline. So we start and maybe have phases, say phase 1, phase 2, and start getting those phases laying out. Go with that kind of an approach, and then obviously it will get you what you require, and
I
you will
think
not be disappointing the client as well. So
I liked what you were kind of saying at the beginning there about, it's about asking the right questions, right? And it's about being open-minded and just listening into what they've got to say and then coming up with those solutions. And it's all about negotiating something that's realistic, not over-promising and then under-delivering when you're in a sort of project environment. So I like that, and I think it's instead of saying no, it's actually what things can you offer.
correct. What are the alternatives? What's a plan B? That you can come up with, because they would always want you to have solutions. No matter where you go, whom you're working with, solutions is something that they definitely want to look at. So be aware of solution. That's why it's very important to have your data ready, and be prepared. Preparation is the key. And then obviously your next thing is revolving around service package customization, right? With respect to some premium packages for an agency that you're working with. So how can you get the best value out of them is something that we need to kind of look at, because everybody wants to get things done at a very limited or a reduced cost. So they always want to do that. So it's very critical. Again, look at what is out in the market, do your market research, understand why that is being told. If there are certain things that is being offered at a lower price or a lower timeline, there has to be some reason behind it, right? Understand what that reason is, because the moment you start understanding those reasons, you are more confident enough to go out there and have that, discussion with the other person. And
Yeah.
then that's where, your value comes into the picture. You're calling out what value you're going to bring on board.
Mm.
uh, it's Don't always look at cost or anything else. Always look at what are the other value that I can bring on board. How I can bring that and have a bigger impact, which will in turn result in, some benefit around costs, right?
Yeah.
So ensure that you have that value based negotiations, not focusing only on the cost and other things, right? And and compromising will be there. So you might have to compromise on certain aspects, but
Mm.
don't go overboard and say, hey, no, we'll have to compromise, we'll have to get this done because my business, I'll have to get my things done. You will get there eventually, you'll get there, but take one step at a time, and make sure that you don't uh, compromise too much.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Thanks for that, Cal. I like those. But look, I think the main thing that we absolutely have covered there is just that preparation piece. So come prepared when you're going into these negotiations. So what does that look like? So as I mentioned before, it's given that advanced warning when you're intending to negotiate. So you're not blindsiding the person. It gives them the opportunities to prepare as well. Be realistic about your skills and experience and market worth. So what are your actual bargaining chips that you have? And what is your market worth as well? Like, I can't recommend enough, like looking for salary guides if it's a salary negotiation, having a look what other people are doing in the market, what other benefits are being offered to, your friends, your colleagues, so that you know exactly what is out there. Also being aware of the state of the company. So I think I mentioned that at the start, is like we are navigating a really challenging landscape. So it's thinking about the other things that you can negotiate that aren't just monetary. It could be like extra annual leave. That would be something that I'd definitely like to negotiate more of. I love a holiday. Industry performance, also anticipating objections. It's not always going to go, smooth sailing. There will be objections. And when I say objections, I think it's just that conversation will be opened up. So be curious, ask questions. You want this to be more of a team approach, we're in it together with the person that you're negotiating with. Know your demands as well. So that kind of that BATNA, like what is the best alternative if it's not going to work out? Like what does it take if you are not going to get what you want? What are the alternatives there? Are you going to look for a new job? Are you going to do something else? So it's a kind of guiding anchor. Prepare those examples and then practice. I think practice makes perfect. And I know some people can be quite scared to do role plays, but I also think like if you can get a friend, a partner, your coach, just speak to them and say, hey, look, I've got this tricky situation, talk it through. I know that I've done that with lots of candidates before. I've actually talked through those sorts of things. Step before we go into a couple more scenarios, might seem very obvious, but many people actually make the mistake of negotiating with the wrong person. So a company might have several people who might actually come to the negotiating table without the authority to actually call the shots and make the business decision. So just be curious, find out who is it that you should be talking to when it comes to specific things when you have to negotiate. Obviously with your salary and etc., it would definitely be your manager and potentially your HR lead. But when it comes to some internal things that you have to negotiate, make sure that you've got the right person in the room. Even myself, like in recruitment, we often have to negotiate things like terms of business, and we have to negotiate new business deals with prospective clients. But time and time again, you think you're meeting the right person who actually makes the final say, but they actually don't. So you have to make sure that you're getting the right person in the room at the right time, which will just help you make those decisions or get those decisions across the line even easier. So our final, I guess, different sort of scenarios that we've presented you with. So we've got a budget allocation between different departments. I've definitely come across this before, and it is like the classic one of two departments, one limited budget, both with big priorities. And the goal here isn't to win more funding, it's actually to maximize impact and to ensure that the allocation is really fair and justifiable. So what does it call for? Really, it calls for prioritization and collaboration. So each team needs to frame their value. Here's how our project aligns with the organizational goals and delivers those measurable outcomes. And I think it's also about transparency as well, as you say, sharing data, timelines. When departments like approach this as partners rather than competitors, it means you can actually co-create a solution that serves the bigger picture. So often if you're in one team versus another team, it's actually not the case, right? It's everybody's working towards the same goal. It's about having an open discussion on, how is it going to work most effectively.
Yeah, and that's where, like you mentioned out, Zibi, that you need to speak with the decision maker, especially this scenario that we're talking about. Budget allocation, you need to have the right person. You can't have a negotiation or discussion between the other team and yourself. When you have two teams together, you can't have conversations amongst them yourselves, because it's going to be a moot point and no outcomes, right? So it's always good to reach to the higher up, the person who actually makes the decision. That's where things will fall in place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just, once again, it's not like against teams against each other. It's actually just thinking what can be achieved together. And then the last scenario, before we kind of, I guess, go through just some of those tips and best practices, buying a used car, and I'm in the market for a car myself. So I don't like doing it because, I don't really know much about cars, and I don't really know. I know the amount of money I want to spend, but I do think this is an area that you do need to do your research. It's always helpful, isn't it, if you've got someone who knows a bit about cars.
Yeah.
But Cal, what have you got to sort of share in this instance?
This happened with me last week. I went in for to buy a car. I want to buy a car now, and went to, I think, someone in Lower Hutt to kind of see how the car is, and went for a test drive. So we got into a lot of negotiation. I started asking him, what other features are you giving us? Is there any add-on features like warranty? Does it come with the engine warranty, or the overall warranty for the car? Then he was like, oh, we don't have it right now, but let me see if I can get something for you. That kind of helped me, because I kind of did a background check on the car, looked at all the features, compared that with other cars in the market at the same features. How's the pricing for each one of them, right? So that kind of helped me to kind of get certain aspects or answers from the other person. I'm still waiting to hear back from
doing your research.
Yeah,
it's just, I think that's the main thing, is when it comes to things like buying things, it's doing the research. Do you know exactly what the market worth is? And I also think as well, sometimes, especially if you're buying something from a private seller, it's that thing might mean something to the person selling. So it's also understanding that emotional cues matter. The seller could be attached to the car or under pressure to sell. So your approach actually does need to be respectful, empathetic. You'll probably get more out of a negotiation if you are having a good, positive human interaction. So be a decent person when it comes to it. Don't lowball. Actually just, know what you want to get out of it. And if it's not going to be for you, it's okay to walk away as well. So that's our scenarios. I've got a few more things to kind of just, summarize, tips and best practices. We spoke about that at the start, about opening the discussion, picking the right time. You don't just want to rush into demands. You want to actually open the door to a dialogue and a back and forth. Start with an anchor. Anchor's going to set the stage. It's your first offer. Subtly, it frames the range of acceptable outcomes. If you're negotiating salary, for example, starting with a really well-researched figure will help steer the conversation toward your target. Know the context as well. So context is always your compass. So what's the dynamic? What's at stake for each party? Understanding the landscape can really help you tailor your approach as well. Ask those questions and don't just make demands. It's not negotiation, it's not blackmail, right? It's It's a conversation, it's not coercion. Asking questions like, one, what would actually make this work for you? It invites that sort of collaboration. It also helps you with like, well, if I can't do that now, what is it I have to work towards in order to make this more realistic or to make this achievable? What else have we got? Listen and don't talk. So listening is your secret weapon. It really builds trust and it reveals priorities. So I think in these interactions, listening is key. And then also, where is the win-win? Always look for mutual gain. What solution will benefit both sides? That's where a really good sustainable agreement can come into play. And then lastly, but a really simple one, is be confident. You know, confidence is, as I said, is something that you can build, and it's a skill and you can learn, but it can be challenging. So just, be confident, smile, have a positive interaction. I like that fact at the start, which was, you know, most people that negotiate will get something that they've looked for, which is awesome. All right, and we will move on to, Carol, you've got some good, useful opening phrases when it comes down to negotiation, if you want to kind of delve through them.
Yeah, I think, see, so you start being confident, right? So how do you sound confident when you have good approach that you take? Things like, based on my research and the value I bring, I was hoping we could revisit the compensation package, right? So so you're letting them know that you've done your bit, right? And you're not just talking in the air and just, you know, just telling something, but you have done your part. Things like, how about we deliver the most critical component first? Like, you know, when it comes to a project management standpoint, what critical components have you identified? So the other person knows that you have identified there are certain critical components that you need to look at, right? So I've found I'm most productive with a hybrid model. Can we try that on a trial basis, like how Zibi mentioned? So using these phrases, keywords are very, very critical when you're having a discussion, right? So the other person knows that this person knows what they're talking about. They're not just, you know, just saying something, right? Some things like, can we agree on some objective criteria to guide the allocation? We are committed to a long-term partnership. So words like partnership, you know, critical components, research, how can we explore and maximize value? So these words are very, very critical, and that's how you know, put in those in your phrases. And the moment you start talking in these terms, the other person, you're catching the other person's attention, right? And you've won half the battle, right? And only half the way to go. And that's, they'll come on board, and that's where your, you know, agreement comes through.
Yeah.
And both of you guys will say, yeah, let's do it, and let's do this, and let's do that, and you agree on certain aspects, right? So
yeah, awesome. Yeah, really like that. And I think just reverting back to, like, sometimes you might not get what you're looking for there and then, but set time to discuss it further down the track with clear deadlines as well, so that the conversation isn't just put to bed.
Yeah.
What else can we look at? So, right mindset to negotiate. Look, it might all seem really simple, but making sure that you've had a good night's sleep, you've eaten well, you know, set yourself up for success, being on time for those interactions, positive, clear-headed, confident, leave your emotions and ego at the door. You know, you're in there to have a really constructive and productive conversation. If you're doing this virtually, is making sure that your internet connection is strong. You set up online, if you've got the right backgrounds on, you're in a professional setting, if it's a work negotiation. There's lots of things and easy things that you can just put into play that will make that full scenario that wee bit easier. And then, just a few other tips, I think, when it comes to negotiation is, don't overstretch what you're pitching for. You know, like, you want to be realistic. Be enthusiastic and excited, and show that your commitment to whatever you're negotiating, or commitment to the organization. You don't want to come across as desperate. Harness the power of silence. So listen into what they've got to say. If there's silence, that's fine. It could be that they're just having a think about what they could bring to the table. don't lie. And then once again, don't let your emotions drive your behaviour. It can get messy, and more than likely you won't get the outcome that you're looking for. So yeah, just making sure that you're you've got a really clear goal and researched proposal to pitch.
Absolutely. And I think for everybody who's on this call, I think, or this webinar, you're hearing this from the pro. Like Zibi is pretty much pro at, ensuring that all of these things are, because, coming from a very, such a great background with respect to all of this. So it becomes very important to kind of, understand that these are actual things that will help.
Yeah.
It's not just, just to lay it out on a slide and show it to you guys. That's definitely not the case. And I think it's very critical to be very, very, uh, you know, uh, keep these things in mind. So these are absolute basics, right? They're not something that we have to think about. It's just basic stuff that that Zippy is talking about, and it's very, very critical to keep these things in mind when you're doing it. So great stuff.
And I
Thanks.
think like a really absolutely, Kat. And I think something else is really important is you actually want to, if you're not happy with something in the workplace, or you should actually enter a conversation and negotiation about it, so that if you let it fester, I'm sure we may have all been there in those scenarios in the past, is that it can be you then start to resent the organisation you work at, but then you haven't articulated what you want and why you want it and why you feel you deserve it. So actually entering and negotiation conversations quite consistently can be really helpful to your development and also to your overall satisfaction at work too. And then lastly, I see that we've got a couple of questions that we will go to, because I think Cal would be really good at sharing some insight, because he has come from working in an overseas environment. But when you've reached that agreement, is actually taking time, reflect on it, read what the agreement is after you've got it in writing, because you want everything in writing and documented, and then review it, right? Review what you did well. How can you develop moving forward when you go into those sorts of negotiations moving forward? And then, yeah, I guess there was a couple of questions, and apologies. Have you got them there?
Yeah, there was one from Greg, if I'm not wrong, on how do you translate your previous career, overseas experience, and professional background to align with a fairer market value for entry-level, early career, and mid-career roles. For example, many international students possess a wealth of experience gained abroad. A lot of this experience, particularly in terms of technical skills, can add significant value to an org, even if they may lack local or on-ground experience. See, great question. I think that actually kind of took me back a year ago, wherein when I came to New Zealand, and I've got all of these things with me, and how can I be relevant to the market, right? There might be certain things that you might want to do, especially for students, because you're bringing not just experience, you're bringing experience along with so much knowledge that you're going to gain here in the country as well. So it's very critical to be relevant, right? You have to be relevant in the market, because right now the market, like how you mentioned at the very start, it's very difficult, or I would not say the most easiest way to get through, but keep trying, right? So don't say, oh, I'm done, it's done and dusted. It's not going to work. Keep yourself relevant, keep updated with what is happening out there. There are a lot of different courses that you can get, upskill them, because what you have done overseas and what you're going to do here is going to be very similar, but with a touch of the culture sensitivity that comes into the picture, right? So you need to bring those aspects as well. And again, I'm reiterating, you have to be relevant, right? It's very, very important to be relevant with what you're doing, right? Any job that you're trying to apply for, and if in case you're just trying to say that I've done this, that's not going to relate
it back to that company. And I think yeah, we've spoken about this before, Cal, and we did the previous Flint event where we did talk about like tailoring and making things relevant. It's like actually look and say it was like as a technical role, look at what platforms that organization are using. How do they align to the ones that you already know? Yeah, so just being super try to ask the right questions when you're at that stage as well. So yeah, there's lots of good ways that you can do it. But look, I think we've covered everything that we wanted to. I hope that's been helpful to those that have joined, and thank you so much for joining. If you've got any questions, shoot us an email. We'll follow up with all these slides as well so that you can have them at hand. But I guess we just wanted to highlight a few things that are coming up within the Flint community. So we've got some awesome events over the next few months. So Flint, Queenstown, if we've got anyone down in the South Island, they've got their show and tell event on the 14th of August. You'll find the details for that on LinkedIn. Flint Wellington have confirmed our quiz on the 3rd of September, so we hope to see as many of you there. It's going to be a great night. We've got space for multiple teams, and there's going to be some nice prizes, and it's just a really good opportunity to connect with people in the community. Flint Auckland have got a mini hackathon happening on the 17th of September. And then in November, we like to, where Cal first came into Flint, was the Get to Know a CXO event, which always proves to be such an awesome event. And we're going to be doing that across all of our regions. So stay tuned for that as well. But yeah, once again, thank you. And thanks, Cal, for joining your first.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much, Zubi, for getting me on. Thank you. It was great getting to know and talking to all of you guys. So good luck to all of you, and we'll see you on the next Flint event in any of these towns. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.